and never loved him. That was the plan. From the moment I met Ethan, I knew what I had to do. This wasn't a love story, it was a revenge story. He didn't recognize me when we met at the high-rise bar downtown. The same man who had destroyed my family's life was now flashing his perfect, white-toothed smile at me, thinking he'd just found his next conquest. He had no idea who I was. That was my advantage. I played my part well, soft smiles, stolen glances, laughter that made it seem like I actually enjoyed his company. I let him believe he was the one chasing me, the one winning me over. In reality, every moment I spent with him was another step toward his downfall. Because Ethan Blackwell wasn't just any man. He was the man who ruined my father. A ruthless businessman who had taken over my father's company, crushed his reputation, and left him with nothing. I still remember the day my father came home, shoulders hunched, eyes hollow. The day he locked himself in his study for hours, a bottle of whiskey his only companion. The day my mother fell apart, and our perfect world crumbled into dust. And Ethan? He walked away from it all without a scratch. I spent years watching my family suffer, waiting for my moment. And when it came, I took it. I became the woman of his dreams. I let him fall in love with me. I let him propose. And when I stood at the altar, dressed in white, staring into his adoring eyes, I smiled because I knew what he didn't. I wasn't his wife. I was his karma, and I was about to make him pay. When people look at me, they see Olivia Hart, the perfect wife, the woman every man would dream of marrying. Elegant, composed, devoted. A wife who smiles at her husband's jokes, who plays the role of the loving partner flawlessly. But they don't know the truth. They don't know that every "I love you" I whisper to Ethan is a lie. That every touch, every kiss, every tender gaze is carefully crafted for one purpose: to destroy him. I wasn't always this way. Once, I was just a girl who grew up in a house filled with love, in a family where my father was my hero. My father, Daniel Hart, was a self-made businessman, the kind of man who built his empire on integrity and hard work. He wasn't ruthless, wasn't cutthroat. He believed in fairness, in honesty. And that's what made him weak in Ethan Blackwell's world. Ethan was everything my father wasn't. Charming, but cruel. Charismatic, but heartless. A businessman who didn't believe in playing fair. When he set his sights on my father's company, he didn't just buy it, he took it apart piece by piece. He manipulated deals, turned allies into enemies, forced my father into a corner until he had no way out. And then, when there was nothing left, Ethan swooped in and took everything. I still remember that day. I was 19. My mother was sitting on the kitchen floor, clutching an eviction notice in her trembling hands, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. My father had locked himself in his study, refusing to come out. I knocked on the door, over and over, but he didn't answer. And when he finally did, his face was something I will never forget: empty. Like a man who had lost not just his business, but himself. That night, I promised myself one thing: Ethan Blackwell would pay. For years I watched him rise. I studied him, learned everything about him, his habits, his weaknesses, the women he loved and discarded. I reinvented myself, became the kind of woman he would notice. And when the time was right, I made my move. I accidentally ran into him at a charity gala, wearing the perfect red dress, saying all the right things. I let him believe he was the one chasing me, when in reality, I had already set the trap. Ethan fell hard. Within months, he was obsessed with me. I played the part of the sweet, loving girlfriend, the woman who made him feel invincible. And when he proposed, slipping a diamond ring onto my finger in front of a crowd of photographers, I smiled and whispered, yes. Not because I loved him, because I was about to become Mrs. Blackwell. And once I did, I would take everything from him: his empire, his reputation, his heart. Just like you took everything from my father. From the outside, our marriage looked perfect. Ethan was the dream husband, attentive, charming, the kind of man who showered me with gifts and affection. To the world, we were the picture of happiness. He took me to the most exclusive parties, whispered sweet promises in my ear, and made sure the media captured every moment of our fairy tale romance. But behind closed doors, I was playing a dangerous game. I had to be careful, never too cold, never too distant. I had to make him believe I loved him, that I was completely devoted to him. Because if Ethan ever suspected the truth, if he ever realized that the woman he married was his greatest enemy, he wouldn't just walk away. Ethan Blackwell wasn't the kind of man who forgave betrayal. And I wasn't just planning to betray him. I was planning to destroy him. I thought I had control. Every move I made was calculated, every step in my plan precise. I had spent years preparing for this, studying Ethan, understanding his strengths, exploiting his weaknesses. I had become the perfect wife, the woman he adored, the woman he trusted. But then, one night, everything changed. It started with a locked drawer in Ethan's home office. Ethan was careless in love but meticulous in business. He never left anything important out in the open. His phone had passwords, his laptop had encryption, and his office, his sanctuary, was always locked when he wasn't inside. I had searched everywhere for something, anything I could use to dismantle him. Bank records, shady deals, illegal transactions. There had to be something. And then, I found the drawer. It was the only one locked in his entire office, tucked beneath his massive mahogany desk. I had seen him open it once before, retrieving a small black notebook. I needed to know what was inside. One night, while he was away at a late meeting, I searched the house for the key. I tried the drawers in our bedroom, his closet, even the pockets of his expensive tailored suits. Nothing. But then, I thought of one place he never let me touch: his watch case. Ethan had a collection of luxury watches, each placed carefully inside a sleek, glass-covered box on his nightstand. He was possessive about them, never letting anyone, even me, handle them. I lifted the case, turned it over, and there it was. A small silver key taped underneath. My pulse quickened as I walked back into his office, shutting the door behind me. My hands were steady as I fit the key into the drawer and turned it with a quiet click. The first thing I saw was the notebook. I flipped it open, expecting to see business transactions, maybe a list of secret offshore accounts. But instead, I found something far worse. Names. Dates. And a pattern that made my blood run cold. Samantha Clark. Dated October 2015, March 2016. $500,000 settlement. Isabel Foster. Dated June 2017, January 2018. $1 million settlement. Alicia Monroe. Dated April 2019, November 2019. $750,000 settlement. My hands shook as I turned the pages, each one filled with the names of women. Women Ethan had been involved with. Women he had discarded. And then I saw my name. Olivia Hart. Married, August 2023. There was no end date. No settlement. No amount of money next to my name. Because I wasn't just another one of Ethan's women. I was his wife. And that made me something else entirely. That made me a threat. I backed away from the desk, my mind racing. Ethan had a system. He seduced women, dated them for months, sometimes years, before cutting them off with a payoff. A transaction, neatly wrapped up like a business deal. But I wasn't on his list for a settlement. That meant one of two things. Either Ethan truly believed I was different, or he had something far worse planned for me. I barely had time to process what I had found when I heard the front door open. Panic surged through me. I locked the drawer, shoved the key back under the watch case, and hurried back into bed, pretending to be asleep. Ethan walked in minutes later, the scent of expensive cologne and whiskey clinging to him. I felt the bed dip as he slid in beside me, his arm wrapping around my waist like it always did. "Missed you tonight," he murmured, pressing a kiss against my shoulder. I'd forced a sleepy smile, keeping my voice soft. "You were late. Business," he said. "But it's all worth it, isn't it?" I felt his fingers trail down my arm, his touch warm. Comforting, lethal. Because now I knew the truth. I wasn't a hunter anymore. I was the prey. The next morning, I played my role perfectly. I kissed Ethan goodbye, smiled as he left for work, and waited until I heard the door click shut before I let my mask slip. I had to know more. This wasn't just about my revenge. Anymore, this was about survival. Ethan didn't leave loose ends, and I was the biggest loose end of them all. I pulled out my phone and made a call. "Lena," I whispered as soon as my best friend picked up. "I need you to do something for me." Lena had been my only confidant in this plan, the only person who knew the truth about my marriage. She had warned me from the beginning, told me Ethan was dangerous, that this wasn't just a game. I hadn't listened. Now, I wished I had. "What happened?" she asked, her voice sharp with concern. "I found something. A list. Women he's paid off. But, Lena, there's nothing next to my name." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then, finally, she spoke. "You need to get out." I swallowed hard. "Not yet, Olivia." "No," I said firmly. "I need to know what he's planning. I need to know why I'm different." Another pause. Then, a sigh. "What do you want me to do?" I closed my eyes, steadying myself. "Find out what happened to the other women. Where they are now. And if any of them disappeared. Because if Ethan Blackwell didn't just pay women off, if he silenced them, then I was in more danger than I had ever imagined. And I had just become his next target. The conflict begins. This was supposed to be my game. I was the one who had set the trap. I was the one who had manipulated him. But now, for the first time, I realized something chilling. Ethan might have known all along. And if he did, then I wasn't playing him. I was walking straight into a trap of my own. I couldn't think straight. The notebook haunted me. The names, the settlements, the carefully calculated dates, it was all there. Like a record of Ethan's discarded lovers. Women he had used and then erased from his life with nothing but a signature and a payout. But I had no number next to my name. No end date. No price tag. That terrified me. I had spent so long pretending to love him, manipulating him into trusting me, believing I had control. But what if I was wrong? What if, all this time, Ethan had been playing me? The thought made my stomach turn. I sat alone in the dim glow of the living room, my hands wrapped around a cold cup of tea I had forgotten to drink. My heart pounded as my mind raced with questions I didn't want to answer. What if I'm next? What happens to the women who don't get a payout? Why am I still here? I thought I knew who Ethan was. A ruthless businessman. A manipulator. A man who destroyed lives for power and profit. But what if there was more? What if his control didn't stop at business deals? What if he didn't just ruin people? What if he erased them? The idea sent a shiver down my spine. I knew I needed to leave. That was the rational choice. Pack a bag, take the money I had stashed away, disappear before Ethan realized I had found his secret. But I had spent years planning my revenge. I couldn't just walk away. I needed to know the truth. Lena called later that night. "I found something," she said, her voice low. I gripped my phone tighter. Tell me. Tell me." I looked up Samantha Clark, the first woman on Ethan's list. She left the country after the settlement, moved to France, changed her number. No social media, no interviews, nothing. She just vanished. I swallowed. And the others? Lena hesitated. Isabel Foster was last seen in New York 2 years ago. Then she disappeared too. No forwarding address. No sign of her. My chest tightened. What about Alicia Monroe? A long pause. Then, in a whisper, Lena said, "She's dead, Olivia." The words sent ice through my veins. What? My voice shook. Alicia Monroe died last year. Official report says it was an accident, drowning while on vacation. But something doesn't add up. She was a professional swimmer, Olivia. She wouldn't have drowned. I couldn't breathe. Ethan didn't just pay these women off. Some of them, at least one of them, hadn't survived him. And I was still in his house. In his bed. I was married to a monster. I paced the bedroom after the call, my hands trembling. I should have packed my things and left. Called Lena. Told her to meet me at the airport. I should have done the smart thing, the safe thing. But instead, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. I had come here with a mission. Revenge. I had promised myself I would take everything from Ethan the way he had taken everything from my father. His company, his reputation, his power. But now? Now, I wasn't sure if I even wanted revenge anymore. I just wanted to live. I sank onto the edge of the bed, pressing my hands to my temples. Had he known all along? Had Ethan known I was lying? Had he seen through me from the start? Was that why there was no settlement in the notebook? Had I been walking straight into my own grave? Tears burned in my eyes, but I refused to cry. I couldn't break. Not now. I had two choices: run while I still could, or stay and find out exactly what Ethan Blackwell did to women like me. Either way, I had to be careful. Because if Ethan did know, if he suspected even for a second that I wasn't the devoted wife he thought I was, that I wouldn't just lose my revenge. I would lose my life. I was being watched. The realization hit me late at night as I stood by the window, staring at the street below. At first I thought it was paranoia, just the weight of everything pressing down on me, making me see threats where there were none. But then I noticed the car. Black. Tinted windows. Parked across the street. It was there yesterday, and the day before that. A shiver ran down my spine. Was it Ethan? Had he found out? I moved away from the window, my mind racing. I had been careful. I had hidden my fear, played my role, smiled when he kissed me. But had it been enough? Had I underestimated him? I needed answers, and there was only one way to get them. That night, I waited until Ethan was asleep. His breathing was slow, steady, completely at ease. I slipped out of bed, moving as silently as possible. His office was locked, as always. But I knew where he kept the key now. I retrieved it from the watch case, my hands shaking slightly as I turned the lock. The office smelled of leather and expensive cigars, and in the dim glow of the desk lamp, everything looked untouched. Perfectly in place. Except for one thing. A door. I had seen it before, but I had never paid much attention to it. It blended in with the dark wooden paneling, a part of the room's decor. Or so I had thought. But now, something felt off. My pulse pounded as I reached for the handle. It was locked. My stomach tightened. Why would Ethan have a hidden, locked door inside his office? I glanced back at the desk. If there was a key, it had to be in there. I pulled open the drawers, careful not to disturb anything. Pens, documents, a sleek black gun, my breath hitched at that, till finally, I found a small silver key. I swallowed hard. My fingers trembled as I fit the key into the lock. It turned with a soft click. I pushed the door open, and what I saw inside made my blood turn to ice. The walls were lined with photographs. Women: Samantha Clark, Isabel Foster, Alicia Monroe, and me. I took a step inside, my breath shallow. The photos weren't random. They were taken without the women knowing candid moments, some from security footage, others from afar. There were notes, too, handwritten ones. Samantha Clark handled. Isabel Foster relocated. Alicia Monroe eliminated. I felt bile rise in my throat. Eliminated. Then, my eyes landed on the last note. My name was at the top. Olivia Hart pending. Pending. My entire body went numb. This wasn't a game. This wasn't some business transaction. I was next. I backed away, panic clawing at my chest. I needed to leave now. But as I turned, a shadow moved in the doorway. And then I heard his voice. Couldn't sleep? Ethan stood there, his face unreadable. I forced a shaky breath, masking my fear. I was looking for you. His gaze flickered to the open door behind me. In there? I tried to think fast. I heard something. Thought maybe we had rats. A slow smile spread across his face. Rats? My heart pounded. He didn't believe me. He took a step closer. I had to get out of there. Now. But before I could move, he reached up on. brushed a strand of hair from my face. His touch was gentle, almost affectionate. "I thought we trusted each other, Olivia," he murmured. My stomach twisted. He knew. I had spent years crafting this plan, perfecting every detail, controlling every move. But Ethan had been one step ahead of me all along. And now, I was trapped. Ethan's fingers lingered against my cheek for a second too long. His touch, so light, so deceptively tender, sent a wave of nausea through me. I couldn't breathe. He knew. Somewhere deep inside, I had suspected it all along. The way he looked at me sometimes, like he was studying me rather than loving me. The way he never truly lost control, no matter how much he pretended to be vulnerable with me. I had spent years crafting my revenge, but now, standing in the dim light of his office, staring into his piercing eyes, realized something. I had never fooled him. Not for a second. I forced a small smile, stepping back, creating space between us. "Ethan," I said, my voice softer than I felt. "I don't know what you think." He tilted his head, amused. "You don't?" I swallowed hard. He sighed, almost disappointed, and then reached into his pocket. My stomach dropped when I saw what he pulled out. A small black recorder. He pressed play. And then I heard my own voice. "Once I have access to everything, I'll take him down. I'll destroy him." A cold sweat broke out over my skin. It was me, talking to Lena. The one conversation I had been so careful about, whispering in an alleyway, avoiding my phone, making sure I was never seen. And Ethan had it. How? My head spun. My pulse roared in my ears. "Quite the performance, Olivia," he mused, tucking the recorder back into his pocket. I have to admit, I was impressed. I stared at him, my mouth dry. "You knew," I whispered. Ethan chuckled, stepping closer. "Of course I knew. Did you really think I'd marry someone without knowing exactly who they were?" I backed up, bumping into the desk. "Then why go through with it?" He smiled. A slow, devastating, terrifying smile. "Because, darling." He leaned in, his voice a whisper against my ear. "I wanted to watch you lose." I lunged for the door. Ethan was faster. His hand clamped around my wrist, yanking me back with effortless strength. I gasped, struggling against him, but it was useless. "Where do you think you're going?" he murmured. Panic exploded in my chest. "Let me go." His grip tightened. Or what? I gritted my teeth, using my free hand to grab the heavy paperweight on his desk. Without thinking, I swung it at his face. He dodged at the last second. The paperweight smashed against the desk, missing him by an inch. But that split second was a Newfie wrenched free and bolted. I didn't look back. I sprinted down the hall, my bare feet barely making a sound against the hardwood. My only thought was escape. I needed to get out of this house. I needed to. Pain exploded in my scalp as Ethan's hand fisted in my hair, yanking me backward. I screamed as he spun me around, shoving me against the wall. "Enough," he growled. My chest heaved, terror clawing up my throat. Ethan's eyes burned into mine. The mask was gone now. No more charm. No more pretending. Only cold, ruthless control. I had never seen the real Ethan Blackwell until this moment. And now, I wished I never had. "You want the truth?" he murmured. "Fine, here it is." He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear. "I killed Alicia Monroe." My heart stopped. He pulled back, watching me, enjoying my reaction. "And do you know why?" he continued, his voice like silk. I couldn't speak. Ethan smiled. "Because she betrayed me." My vision blurred. I shook my head. "No, yes." His fingers trailed down my arm, almost comforting. "And now you have a choice, Olivia." I shuddered. "What choice?" Ethan's smile widened. "You can stay. Forget this nonsense. Be my wife for real, and I will let you live." My stomach churned. He was insane. "And if I refuse?" I whispered. Ethan sighed. Then you'll end up just like Alicia. Tears stunned my eyes. He let the words sink in, then leaned in one last time. What's it going to be, darling? I had no answer. Not yet. But one thing was certain. I had walked into Ethan Blackwell's trap thinking I was the hunter. And now, I was the prey. I stood there, pinned against the wall, the weight of Ethan's words crashing down on me. His eyes bored into mine, cold and calculating, but something inside me shifted. Fear, anger, defiance. For the first time in years, I felt the truth seep through the fog I had built around myself. I had been playing a dangerous game. But Ethan? Ethan had played me from the very beginning. I took a shaky breath. I couldn't let him see my fear. I couldn't let him win. The truth hit me like a slap to the face. Ethan wasn't the monster I had imagined. No, he was worse. He was my monster. He had taken everything from me before I even knew what I was giving. And now he expected me to just fall in line. But that was the moment I knew. I wouldn't let him break me. Not now. Not after everything. I've heard enough, I whispered. His smile faltered for just a fraction of a second, but I didn't miss it. He thought he had control. But right now, it was slipping through his fingers, like sand. You can't threaten me anymore, Ethan. My voice was stronger than I felt. You're not the only one who knows how to play the game. Ethan's brows furrowed. What are you talking about? I could feel the tension thickening in the air between us, but I refused to let it break me. I had come too far. I had done terrible things, but I was done. Done being his puppet. Done hiding in the shadows. I took a deep breath, steadied my gaze, and locked my eyes on his. I knew from the start, I said. I knew you were a monster, but you also underestimated me. Ethan chuckled darkly, taking a step closer. Underestimate you? Darling, you couldn't even fool me for a minute. His words stung, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I leaned in, my voice a deadly whisper. I didn't have to fool you. I just had to get you to think I did. And with that, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small device I had stolen from his drawer. The recorder. Ethan's expression shifted, his smugness faltering as he realized what I was holding. His eyes flickered to the door, then back to me. Panic. It was only there for a second, but it was enough. You, he started, but I raised a hand, cutting him off. You thought you had everything in control, didn't you? I pressed the button, and the voice of my accomplice, Lena, filled the room. A recording I had made weeks ago, one that Ethan had no idea existed. Ethan Blackwell has been involved in criminal activity for years. He's orchestrated everything, from the settlements to the disappearances. I have proof. I'm sending it to Olivia now. She has no idea I've been working with Prash. You the whole time. Ethan's face twisted in shock. His breath quickened. He reached for me, but I backed away, holding the recorder out of reach. You bitch, he spat, his eyes dark with rage. I held my ground. You thought you could control everything. You were wrong. The sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway. At first I thought it was just my pulse pounding in my ears, but then the door burst open. Lena stepped inside, her face pale but determined. You weren't supposed to get this far, she said, walking toward me, her eyes meeting Ethan's. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. He took a step forward, but the cold look in Lena's eyes stopped him. You didn't know, she continued, her voice calm, that I was the one feeding Olivia everything. I had everything set up to make sure you would slip. Ethan froze. He couldn't understand it. He couldn't process that the person he had trusted his own partner in this twisted game was the one who had betrayed him. Lena raised her phone, showing a message on the screen. It's already done. The evidence is out there. Your empire is crumbling, Ethan. His world began to unravel in real time. His face went white as he looked from Lena to the recorder to the door where a pair of police officers now stood. They had been waiting for the signal, for the evidence to be confirmed. His last move had been his downfall. You're finished, Lena said coldly. I've been working on this for months. Everything you've done is coming to light." Ethan's eyes burned with fury, but there was nothing he could do. The truth had caught up with him. The people he had silenced couldn't hide them anymore. It was over. I had taken everything. I had won. But as I walked out of that house, the weight of what I had done finally hit me. It wasn't a victory that felt sweet. It wasn't justice either. I had taken Ethan's empire, but I had also lost part of myself in the process. What had I become? I had learned that revenge isn't what you think it is. It doesn't heal. It doesn't fix it. It leaves scars that stay long after the battle is over. As the police led Ethan away in handcuffs, I stood there, numb. I had lost him. But in a way, I had also saved myself. And that was the only thing that mattered now. Sometimes, the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. And in the end, it's not the revenge we crave that sets us free, it's the freedom to finally walk away from the darkness. I never thought I would be standing here, free of him. Free of it all. But now, as the last remnants of Ethan Blackwell's world faded behind me, I understood one thing. Sometimes, the only way to reclaim yourself is to destroy the person who thought they owned you. And in that destruction, you rebuild. A little stronger, a little wiser, a little more whole.